going to do a little instructional video on how to install a Wolo BadBoy air horn, specifically on a 2011 Kawasaki Concours. I've installed the same horn on my prior bike, a 2008 Kawasaki Versus. It's pretty straightforward, but any kind of instruction that I would have had was helpful, and YouTube was helpful for some of the stuff that I did, but I thought I'd just put something together for you. Right, Wolo instructions are pretty good. The first thing that I did was detach the connectors for the factory horn. It's up underneath the forks there. You just pull those two connectors off. That's pretty simple. I'm going to start off from a wide angle here just so I can show you what I did next. Now, down in here, it's down underneath the fork, underneath, I guess, I don't know if it's not the triple clamp, it's down underneath where the fork clamps. There was a connector that was holding the wires that were going down to the original horn. It held them in place there, but I cut them. I was very careful not to cut the wires for the horn. But what it did is it allowed me to break that free and to allow me to run what I needed to run the wires elsewhere. Okay, otherwise I wasn't going to have enough to work with. Once I had those wires free, the next thing that I had to do was a little bit of fabrication, and maybe you could have bought this elsewhere. But what I did was I constructed a bracket. I painted it black here. It's a little ratty looking, but it doesn't matter. It's going to be out of the weather. It was actually a support for a closet shelf. And what I did was just bang this out straight. Then you see here, I did a 45-degree angle on that, 90-degree angle, I'm sorry, 90-degree angle, bent it back. Okay, what that does is it supports the bottom of the horn in the same way that it supports the top of the horn. This way there's no shaking. You see there's no vibration there. There's no movement on that, the bottom of the horn, okay? I brought that back out, and then what I had to do was drill a hole in the support. It's just really just for bodywork support here, so it's not that important. It's not like load bearing. And then I just used a screw and I screwed all the way through. That's nice and solid. What I also did was this bolt that came with the Wolo was a little bit long. I cut that because I didn't want that to be coming out and hitting the bodywork. But just to be safe, what I did is I installed a piece of weather stripping on the inside of the bodywork, so when I do put this back together, the weather stripping will be hitting the top of that bolt. Once I had the bracket installed, I just kind of loose fitted that in there to make sure that everything fit without rubbing up against the top piece of fairing here. And then I went about wiring. Okay, it's fairly straightforward. This is your relay. That's your relay. It comes with the Wolo. I mounted that on this little firewall here. There's a lot of different places you could mount it, but I just thought that was the easiest place. All I did was cut a little hole in that with my utility knife and ran a zip tie through it. This way it's not permanent if I want to move something or fix it. Okay, it's a little bit tight in here. That's the relay. There's four male parts coming off of that. On the left side is one of the connectors coming from the horn, the original horn, and then on the other side is another connector. It doesn't matter which side you put them on. Either side is fine, okay? Once you have that hooked up, now you have to go about hooking up the positive wires for the horn. Really not good at electrical work, but this is fairly simple. I just took my time. The first thing, as far as wiring everything up after you have the original wires hooked up onto the bottom of the relay, is to hook the positive from the relay back to the battery. Now, this inline fuse, I purchased at the local auto parts store. It's a 20 amp inline fuse. Wolo says that is the size that you need to use. Okay, So I did my little connector there. I crimped it. I stink at soldering, so I just crimped it. It's solid. It says that you have to use at least 16 gauge wire. I used 12 gauge wire, okay, and it's solid wire. I use solid wire. It's a little bit hidden here, but after I had the inline fuse in there, then I had to run it connected to some more wire because it doesn't reach all the way back to the battery. Okay, ran that back to the battery, and I shrink wrapped it in red just so we know that it's positive. And I hooked that on top of the battery. Now, in order to get to the battery, I'm not showing you that, but there's just 4 bolts here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Take that out, that's a steel piece. Battery's a little bit tough to deal with, but I took off the plate, pulled it out, and I was able to hook everything up in there, okay? So that was it as far as coming back from the relay to the battery. And once I had the horn, well actually the relay positive back to the battery, then I had to do the positive from the relay to the horn. Okay, so that's right out in front here. It's marked there. I have it in red. Just a little wire goes down, and then it comes up underneath right there. That's the positive for the horn. Okay, now there is a negative over there, but I'll get in that in a little bit. Now that the positives are all hooked up, now we had to work on the negatives. It works a little bit different here. Here's the screw, or actually the bolt for the negatives. It's very important that you have this hooked up correctly. There's not a lot of space behind this plate here. So there is a negative. This is the negative that's coming off of the battery right here. Okay, put that on top. There's also another bundle of wires that are coming from the bike that comes up behind here. That's underneath there. The previous owner had this battery tender hooked up. I'm going to leave that there. And then my negative for the horn. So it's important that you have this here. Otherwise, if this is down this way, the plate's not going to fit. Okay, so you see how I have that going where nothing's going to hit. It's above that. So I just ran the negative up behind the frame, once again here through the firewall. Now that goes right underneath the other side. You can't really see it there because it's hidden, but that's on the other side of the bottom of the horn. All right, it's all hooked up. I don't think I left anything important out. That's just the basics, nothing really in depth. Now this is how this baby sounds. I'm not gonna lay on it because it's late and my wife is sleeping. All right, nice and loud. I like to see the reaction on people's faces when they're trying to cut into my lane and I lay on that horn. I think it really is a good thing to have on the bike. The factory horn just doesn't cut it for me. I've left the bodywork off because tomorrow I plan on putting canyon cages on this bad boy. All right, hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, you can just leave comments and I'll try to answer them for you.